Hi warriors. Welcome back to the channel of learning philosophy. You're broke for one reason: you need too much. Your desires burn faster than your income, and that is exactly how the world controls you. Today, I'll show you the brutal Machiavellian rule that men who need less wealth always build more wealth. And if you stay with me for the next few minutes, you'll walk away with 6 ruthless strategies that instantly increase your power, income, and financial independence without earning a single extra dollar. In Machiavelli's world, power was never about what you owned. It was about what you could walk away from. Modern men fail because they worship comfort, lifestyle, and approval. But the men who command wealth, they operate by a different code: need little, control everything. In this video you will learn 6 Machiavellian keynotes. Keynote 1. The Desire Detox. Let's begin with the foundation of all wealth, the first secret that separates the powerless from the relentless, the desire detox. This is not a lesson in simple frugality, nor is it a superficial spend less, save more lecture. No, this is a surgical extraction of what controls you, the endless gnawing cravings that society, culture, and your peers have installed in your mind. Every man who has failed in accumulating wealth, in commanding influence, in achieving autonomy has been enslaved by his own desires. And the brutal truth is that most men don't even recognize these chains. Think of it this way: your desires are leashes. Every want, every craving, every obsession is a cord tied firmly around your potential. When you see someone buying the latest gadget, the newest car, or the conspicuous luxury to impress strangers, understand this: he is not free. He is owned. He is predictably weak. Machiavelli would have said the same. A man who cannot govern his appetites is a man who will be governed by others. And in the world of wealth and power, being predictable is fatal. The moment your actions are dictated by craving rather than strategy, your ability to maneuver, to negotiate, and to seize opportunity evaporates. The desire detox is a ruthless, unapologetic audit of your own psyche. You must become a surgeon of your mind, identifying which desires are authentic tools of your ambition and which are parasites feeding off your energy, attention, and income. Most men operate in reverse. They chase desires without analysis, hoping that accumulating possessions, recognition, or comfort will bring satisfaction. But this is illusion. The man who wants less, who consciously prunes unnecessary wants, immediately gains leverage over the system. He can act with precision, with clarity, with an absence of distraction. Here's the Machiavellian analysis: every desire you have carries a cost far beyond its price tag. When you want, you expend mental energy, time, and attention. You become reactive. You are easily manipulated because others can predict what you want and can use it against you. Consider this: if someone knows you cannot resist the latest social trend or material fad, they have power over you. Advertisers, co-workers, even friends, they all exploit the fact that your mind is tethered to craving. The less you need, the less anyone can control you. Less need equals more freedom. Less need equals more wealth. The strategic antidote is not a theory. It is an active, ruthless exercise. Begin by cataloging your desires. Every recurrent craving, every impulse, everything you think you must have, must be written down. Once you have this list, act with the precision of a general on a battlefield. Identify which of these desires are purely emotional, which are socially conditioned, and which truly contribute to your power. Then eliminate at least a third immediately. Don't rationalize, don't negotiate with yourself. A desire that doesn't serve your power is a liability. Cutting it frees resources, mental, emotional, and financial, that you can redirect toward accumulation, toward leverage, toward freedom. As you purge these distractions, you will notice a subtle but profound shift. Your mind will no longer chase shadows, your attention will focus like a laser on high-value opportunities, and your financial decisions will become ruthless in their clarity. Where before you spent reactively, you will begin to spend strategically. Where before you chased approval and fleeting comfort, you will start to accumulate silently, invisibly, methodically. The desire detox does not make you poor, it makes you unpredictably powerful. It is important to note that this is not an exercise in denial. This is not self-deprivation for the sake of asceticism. This is the deliberate dismantling of mental leashes, a recalibration of your instincts so that you act only from need, from strategy, and from leverage. Every man who has accumulated true wealth, who has navigated the treacherous waters of influence and power, has understood this principle implicitly. Desire is not evil, but uncontrolled desire is lethal. The desire detox is your blueprint for eliminating the noise, for untangling yourself from the chains that prevent accumulation, for gaining control over a world that will otherwise control you. Keynote 2, the power-to-need ratio. Now, let us move to the second critical principle, the one that separates those who endlessly toil for money from those who quietly command it. The power-to-need ratio. Most men measure their wealth by how much they earn, how much they can spend, and how lavish their lifestyles appear. They are slaves to the illusion that accumulation equals dominance. But the truth, harsh and cold, is far more strategic. Power does not come from earning more. It comes from needing less. The fewer your dependencies, the more agile your mind becomes, and the more effectively you can deploy the resources you already control. This is a principle that the powerful have understood for centuries, yet it is invisible to the weak and distracted. Consider it through the lens of Machiavelli. A ruler who relies heavily on others is vulnerable. The man who requires constant validation, who demands status symbols to feel secure, is at the mercy of circumstance. He must earn, spend, impress, and consume endlessly just to maintain the illusion of control. Every extra want, every unnecessary demand on resources, increases exposure to risk, and risk is the enemy of dominance. In contrast, a man who reduces his needs transforms scarcity into strategy. By demanding less from life, he frees his mind and his assets for the pursuit of leverage rather than fleeting satisfaction. The power-to-need ratio is deceptively simple but brutally effective. It forces you to evaluate your life in terms of necessity versus indulgence, in terms of leverage versus expenditure. Every dollar you do not need to survive, every moment you do not spend chasing trivial gratifications, is power that can be redirected into acquisition, influence, and freedom. Men who obsess over earning more are reactive. They respond to the world. Men who master their power-to-need ratio are proactive. They dictate terms to the world. Machiavelli understood this instinctively. A prince who can govern his own appetite governs his state. A man who can govern his own needs controls his we. Alf. Now, how do you apply this principle with ruthless efficiency? First, conduct a meticulous audit of your life and your spending. Examine every recurring expense, every habitual indulgence, and question whether it is a necessity or a leash. Then, cut aggressively. Start with the small, non-strategic items that drain resources without delivering leverage. But do not stop there. Consider your emotional and social needs as well. The desire for approval, the compulsion to appear wealthy or successful to peers, the need to participate in every trend. These are invisible costs that drain your power-to-need ratio even faster than dollars do. Reducing these invisible dependencies is where true wealth is cultivated. As you refine your ratio, you will notice subtle but profound changes. Your attention sharpens, your patience lengthens, and your decision-making becomes coldly rational. Where others panic and scramble, you maneuver with precision. Where others overextend to chase validation, you act silently, acquiring leverage that compounds invisibly. The men who master this ratio operate like generals on a battlefield. They understand that true power comes not from the abundance they control, but from the scarcity they impose upon themselves. This principle also redefines ambition. Ambition is no longer a desperate sprint toward external accumulation. Instead, it becomes a measured, surgical expansion of influence and resources, guided by the clarity that comes from needing less. You will learn to see opportunities that others overlook, to invest where others consume, and to accumulate quietly while the world remains distracted by its insatiable wants. The power-to-need ratio is the psychological framework that underpins all strategic accumulation. It is the invisible edge that separates the man who survives from the man who dominates. Keynote 3: The cost of impressing the weak. Now we arrive at Keynote 3, a principle that is simple in theory but lethal in practice: the cost of impressing the weak. Observe the world around you, and you will see men frittering away power, resources, and focus to gain approval from people who could never, under any circumstance, elevate them. These are the men who buy the latest gadgets, flaunt luxury cars, chase status symbols, and post curated images of success, all in a desperate attempt to impress an audience that has no authority, no influence, and no capacity to reciprocate. Machiavelli would call this behavior predictable, foolish, and fatal. The weak, by definition, are irrelevant to your rise. They neither contribute leverage nor provide opportunity. And yet, many men surrender their autonomy, their wealth, and their time to satisfy their gaze. Every effort to impress the weak comes at a cost: financial, emotional, and psychological. Money spent to earn admiration from the powerless is money stolen from your strategic future. Energy invested in validation is energy diverted from accumulation, influence, and freedom. And the deeper truth, the one most refused to acknowledge, is that the weak are also manipulators. They demand more, they judge without understanding, and they punish independence. By bending to their expectations, you are giving away your sovereignty, one unnecessary indulgence at a time. The Machiavellian analysis is clear: appearances matter, but only when they serve a strategic purpose. A ruler, a general, a man of true influence projects power deliberately, selectively, and invisibly. He does not spend to impress those who hold no power over him. He does not bend to societal fads or the fleeting desires of peers. To do so is to relinquish control. Machiavelli himself wrote extensively about perception, but he also warned against the folly of seeking universal approval. A prince must appear virtuous when it serves him, otherwise he must operate unseen, decisive, and unbound by the opinions of the feeble. This same logic applies to your financial and strategic life. The strategic antidote is ruthless in its simplicity. Begin by examining every decision you make in relation to others. Every purchase, every gesture, every attempt at keeping up must be analyzed through one lens: does this serve my power? If the answer is no, it is a liability. For the next 30 days, enforce a strict rule: no action, no spending, no effort will be directed toward impressing someone who cannot materially or strategically influence your ascent. Watch how quickly the clutter of obligations, expenses, and emotional drain disappears. The psychological liberation alone is profound, but the financial and strategic advantages are immediate. You will begin to see the invisible chains that bound you: invitations accepted out of fear of rejection, expenditures made out of envy, compromises submitted out of desire for fleeting approval. Every instance of bending to impress the weak has been quietly eroding your sovereignty. Removing these unnecessary obligations is not selfish, it is disciplined. It is the practice of strategic autonomy. You will learn to allocate your resources with surgical precision, to invest in relationships, opportunities, and assets that actually amplify your power. As this principle takes root, the world will shift subtly before your eyes. The men who once demanded your attention will fade into irrelevance. The distractions that once consumed your mind and money will evaporate. You will develop a mental armor against peer pressure, social expectation, and emotional manipulation. Where others act predictably to gain approval, you will act unpredictably, strategically, and powerfully. By ignoring the weak, you reveal your independence. By serving your resources, you cultivate leverage. And by rejecting validation from the irrelevant, you assert the first tangible steps toward absolute control over your wealth, influence, and destiny. Keynote 4. The Frugal Predator Principle. Now we enter Keynote 4, a principle that separates the passive observers of wealth from the true predators who silently dominate. The Frugal Predator Principle. Most men live as prey in the financial world. They spend impulsively, chase fleeting pleasures, and exhaust themselves trying to keep up with the superficial standards of others. They operate reactively, allowing life to dictate their choices. The predator, however, behaves differently. The predator understands that patience, calculation, and restraint are not sacrifices, they are weapons. A predator does not consume blindly, he accumulates, positions himself strategically, and strikes only when the moment guarantees advantage. Consider the psychology of the predator. While the masses are distracted by indulgence, the predator observes, calculates, and prepares. He understands that every dollar spent unnecessarily, every indulgence bought on impulse, is energy and opportunity stolen from him. The frugal predator does not view frugality as deprivation. It is a tactical advantage, a shield and a tool. By consuming less and restraining desire, he increases the proportion of resources under his control and the flexibility to maneuver in ways the impulsive cannot comprehend. He is invisible while the others display themselves, and in that invisibility lies his strength. Machiavelli recognized this instinct centuries ago. In his analysis of power, he observed that the ruler who conserves resources, acts with foresight, and controls his appetites wields the greatest influence. The same principle applies to modern wealth, those who squander energy and capital on transient satisfaction are predictable, vulnerable, and ultimately irrelevant. Those who operate like predators, patient, calculating, and frugal, amass advantage silently, accumulating leverage that compounds while others chase ephemeral gratification. Frugality is not the opposite of power, it is the instrument of it. The strategic antidote is to adopt frugality as a deliberate, conscious, and ruthless discipline. Every expense, every indulgence, every allocation of resources must be examined through the lens of strategic advantage. Where others see pleasure, you see opportunity. Where others see consumption, you see leverage. Begin to redirect a portion of every income into accumulative assets before any lifestyle expense. This act is not merely financial, it is psychological. It trains your mind to prioritize acquisition over indulgence, to act with foresight instead of impulsivity, to operate like a predator who calculates every move with precision. The frugal predator does not announce his accumulation. He does not need external validation. He does not display wealth for applause or admiration. His accumulation is invisible, untraceable, and strategic. This invisibility is a weapon. By remaining understated, he is underestimated, and the world does not anticipate his moves. When he acts, the impact is disproportionate because no one expects the silent predator to wield such influence. He strikes in moments of maximum leverage, not in the shallow theater of social performance. Adopting this principle requires more than financial restraint. It demands mental recalibration. You must reprogram your instincts, replacing the urge for instant gratification with the discipline of long-term gain. You must resist the temptation to appear successful and instead focus on becoming truly powerful. Every act of restraint is a training exercise in patience, cunning, and control. You are Teague. Ing your mind to value leverage over indulgence, foresight over impulse, and accumulation over distraction. The world will continue to reward the flashy, the impulsive, and the distracted, but you will not participate in that system. You will operate outside of it, silently amassing influence, wealth, and freedom, while others exhaust themselves chasing approval and pleasure. The frugal predator principle transforms your resources into tools, your patience into a weapon, and your restraint into a strategic advantage that the careless will never understand. Keynote 5, the strategic scarcity model. Now we come to Keynote 5, a principle that few understand, but that separates ordinary men from those who operate on a higher plane of control, the strategic scarcity model. Modern men are addicted to comfort, convenience, and constant gratification. They live in abundance yet feel empty, perpetually seeking more, yet never commanding more. Scarcity, however, is not a weakness. It is the secret weapon of the powerful. When controlled deliberately, scarcity sharpens instincts, heightens awareness, and strengthens decision-making. It transforms a man from a passive consumer into a calculated strategist. Think about this. Every comfort you indulge in without purpose softens you. Every ease you accept without strategy dulls your senses. The world is built for the distracted, the weak, and the indulgent. Those who give themselves everything without effort are predictable, their desires transparent, their weaknesses exposed. Machiavelli understood the value of controlled deprivation. He taught that rulers must balance resources and restraint, keeping both people and power in check. The same applies to modern life. When you limit your access to comfort intentionally, you cultivate hunger, not just for wealth, but for opportunity, influence, and dominance. The strategic scarcity model is deceptively simple. It is about introducing voluntary constraints that are uncomfortable yet deliberate. It is about denying yourself what is easy, trivial, or distracting so that your mind and resources are available for high-value action. Scarcity focuses attention. Scarcity strengthens resolve. Scarcity amplifies leverage. When others spend without thinking, you accumulate silently. When others chase pleasure, you sharpen your strategy. Scarcity creates the psychological tension necessary for growth, allowing you to see opportunities invisible to the complacent. The Machiavellian analysis is clear. Abundance without control is vulnerability. Men who never experience constraint are unable to prioritize, unable to endure challenge, and unable to act decisively when opportunity presents itself. Scarcity, strategically applied, teaches patience, discernment, and discipline. It trains you to make high-stakes decisions with precision because you understand the cost of misallocation. The mind that operates in controlled scarcity is agile, adaptable, and ruthless. It is a mind that does not crumble under pressure because it has already internalized restraint. The strategic antidote involves deliberate exercises in voluntary scarcity. Start by identifying the areas in your life where indulgence dominates: entertainment, consumption, convenience, social distractions. Introduce limits that challenge your comfort but are sustainable long-term. The goal is not suffering, it is recalibration. By denying easy gratification, you force your instincts to adapt. You force your mind to prioritize the accumulation of leverage over the pursuit of ephemeral satisfaction. You begin to operate with the calm focus of a man who controls his environment rather than reacting to it. Controlled scarcity also amplifies resilience. A man who has trained himself to endure discomfort strategically becomes unbreakable in the face of real adversity. The weak crumble when pressure hits, the disciplined rise. Scarcity becomes a lens through which every decision is measured. Does this action preserve my strength? Does this expenditure increase my influence? Does this indulgence advance my control? If the answer is no, it is removed. Over time, this practice transforms not only resources but mentality. Where others are distracted by abundance, you are deliberate. Where others act impulsively, you act strategically. Scarcity breeds awareness, focus, and strategic patience, qualities that are invisible to the impatient but essential to the man who intends to dominate. Those who embrace this principle find that wealth, influence, and control accumulate naturally as byproducts of disciplined restraint and deliberate scarcity. Keynote 6: The Sovereign Reserve Law. Finally, we arrive at Keynote 6, the principle that completes the architecture of control over wealth and power, the Sovereign Reserve Law. Most men spend everything they earn. They reveal their resources, their plans, and their vulnerabilities openly. They act as if abundance is eternal, as if fortune will always sustain them, and as if the world cannot turn against them in an instant. But Machiavelli taught centuries ago that a ruler who relies entirely on visible strength is exposed. True sovereignty requires a hidden arsenal, resources known to no one but yourself. A reserve that ensures freedom, independence, and leverage when all else falters. The Sovereign Reserve Law is simple in concept but ruthless in execution. It is the creation of a secret, untouchable cache of resources, financial or otherwise, that nobody, friends, family, colleagues, or competitors, knows about. This reserve is not for display. It is not for ego or validation. It exists purely to secure your autonomy, to protect our strategic options, and to grant you the ability to act decisively when the world demands it. The man who possesses a sovereign reserve holds unseen power. He becomes unpredictable. He cannot be manipulated. He cannot be coerced. He cannot fail from desperation because he has anticipated the unknown. Machiavelli understood that the visibility of wealth often attracts attack. The more people know about your resources, the more they will attempt to control, exploit, or diminish them. A man who spends recklessly or flaunts every asset invites risk. A man who keeps a portion hidden, however, retains absolute freedom. This is psychological leverage as much as it is financial. The knowledge that you are never truly exposed, that there is always a hidden reserve, sharpens your confidence, steadies your judgment, and allows you to act with precision while others hesitate in fear or uncertainty. Implementing this principle requires a combination of discipline, foresight, and secrecy. You must create a dedicated reserve, an account, a fund, an asset, completely insulated from your visible financial life. No one can know about it, not even your closest associates. Feed it consistently with absolute regularity before any lifestyle expenses are addressed. This is not optional. The sovereign reserve is the last line of defense, the ultimate strategic weapon. By committing to its maintenance, you cultivate a mindset that does not panic, that does not compromise, and that does not surrender autonomy. The Machiavellian analysis of this principle is profound. Men who have no hidden resources are slaves to circumstance. They are reactive, fearful, and dependent. They negotiate from weakness because they know that if the visible wealth disappears, so does their security. The man who has a sovereign reserve, however, negotiates from strength. He can wait, maneuver, and dictate terms because he is untouchable. He is not constrained by the whims of others or by the pressures of immediate need. He becomes a sovereign entity in every transaction, every decision, and every confrontation. Beyond security, the sovereign reserve amplifies opportunity. While others scramble, constrained by immediate consumption or obligations, you act with discretion. You seize assets, invest, and dominate when conditions are favorable because your hidden resources grant you freedom that the visible players will never understand. This is not luck. This is strategic foresight. This is the accumulation of power disguised as prudence, invisibly shaping outcomes that others assume are random. The psychological effect is equally significant. Knowledge of a hidden reserve breeds calm decisiveness. You are no longer prey to fear or desire. You no longer overcommit in desperation. You operate with patience, knowing that your secret foundation cannot be undermined. This principle is the ultimate armor, the silent strength that ensures every move you make is deliberate, calculated, and unassailable. You now have the 6 Machiavellian principles of wealth creation: the desire detox, the power-to-need ratio, the cost of impressing the weak, the frugal predator principle, the strategic scarcity model, the sovereign reserve law. True wealth is not built by the man who wants everything, but by the man who controls what he wants. Final power statement: claim your sovereignty, need less, command more. In the next video, I'll reveal why people with power ignore you, and how to reverse it using Machiavellian social tactics. Turn on notifications, because missing that one will cost you far more than money.